The night sky was heavy with storm clouds, thunder rumbling low in the distance. The city lights flickered against the dark horizon, and the rain had already begun to pour, pelting down in relentless sheets. For most, it was a miserable evening, one meant for warm homes and cozy blankets. But for Elena, standing in the rain with nothing but her thin coat, it was the night everything in her life would change. She hadn't meant to be here, not like this. She had rushed out of the restaurant, tears streaming down her face after being humiliated by her ex-boyfriend who had chosen to flaunt his new relationship right in front of her. Her heels clacked against the wet pavement as she walked without direction, the city suddenly feeling too big, too harsh, and far too lonely. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, telling herself she wouldn't cry anymore. And then came the sound of a car door slamming shut. "Do you always walk in the rain like you own the street?" Elena froze. The voice was sharp, commanding, and oddly familiar. She turned her head, and her heart skipped. There he was. Damien Voss. The ruthless CEO everyone in the city feared. The man whose face was always splashed across business magazines, whose empire was built on sheer will and unyielding determination. He was known for crushing his competition, for never smiling, for being untouchable. And now he was standing there, tall and broad-shouldered in a dark tailored suit, completely out of place in the pouring rain. His eyes, cold gray, looked straight at her, as though he was reading her soul. Elena stammered, clutching her bag to her chest. "I didn't realize. You didn't realize you're in front of my car." His tone was clipped, but his gaze lingered on her longer than necessary. Her wet hair clung to her cheeks, her lips trembling not from fear but from the cold. Something about her fragility tugged at him in a way he didn't understand. "I'll move," she whispered quickly, stepping aside. But her heel slipped on the slick pavement, and she stumbled. Without thinking, Damien reached forward and caught her by the arm. His grip was strong, steadying her effortlessly. For a moment, the world seemed to fall silent except for the rain. Their eyes met, hers wide with surprise, his narrowed with an emotion he didn't recognize. "You should be more careful," he muttered, but his voice had softened. Elena nodded, her throat tightening. She wanted to thank him, to say something, anything, but words refused to come out. Damien should have let go of her then. That was the logical thing to do. But something inside him rebelled against logic. He hadn't felt this spark in years, this strange pull towards someone who seemed so vulnerable, yet so quietly strong. His chest tightened, and for once in his life, control began to slip through his fingers. "Why are you out here alone?" he asked suddenly, his tone quieter, almost demanding an answer. Elena hesitated. "Because I had nowhere else to go tonight." The admission hit him harder than it should have. He wasn't used to caring. He wasn't used to feeling anything. And yet, here she was, in the middle of a storm, shivering and drenched, and all he wanted was to wrap her in warmth. The rain poured harder, blurring the edges of the city around them. Elena looked up, and before she knew it, Damien was still holding her arm, closer than he had any right to be. "Damien Voss doesn't stop for anyone," she whispered in disbelief, half to herself. "Maybe he does," he answered, his voice low, rough with something unfamiliar. Her breath caught. His face was so close now, droplets of rain sliding down his sharp jawline. His eyes were no longer cold but stormy, conflicted, burning with something raw. She should have stepped away. He was dangerous, not in the physical sense, but in the way that he could consume someone entirely if they let him in. But Elena couldn't move. She didn't want to. The thunder roared above them, and in that moment, Damien leaned down. His lips brushed hers, hesitant for only a fraction of a second before claiming her fully. The kiss was nothing like she expected. It wasn't gentle, nor was it calculated. It was desperate, hungry, filled with years of suppressed emotions. Damien kissed her as though she was the only thing keeping him alive, his hand sliding up to cradle her face, the rain mixing with the heat of their lips. Elena melted into him, her fingers clutching at his suit jacket. Her heart raced, not from fear but from the overwhelming electricity coursing through her veins. She had never been kissed like this, never felt wanted in a way that stripped her bare. When he finally pulled back, both of them were breathless. The rain continued to fall, but neither seemed to notice anymore. "I shouldn't have done that," Damien whispered, his forehead pressing against hers. His voice was hoarse, conflicted, but his arms refused to let her go. "Then why did you?" Alina's voice trembled, not from the cold but from the storm he had unleashed inside her. Because for the first time in years, he admitted, his hand tightening against her waist, I couldn't control myself. The ruthless CEO, known for his discipline, his icy demeanor, his unshakable power, had lost all control under the rain because of one woman. And Elena, still trembling in his arms, knew her life would never be the same again. The night stretched on, with stolen glances, whispered words, and a silence that spoke louder than anything else. He offered her his jacket, his car, even his silence that strangely felt like comfort. For once, Damien Voss wasn't the untouchable man the world painted him to be. He was just a man, vulnerable under the rain, undone by a single kiss. And Elena realized that sometimes, storms didn't just destroy, they also brought two souls crashing together.